Hello everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. So in this video, I am going to solve two intermediate level problems on the basis of exceptional handling. In the previous video, I have told you guys how exception handling works and how it handles the error. In the description of previous video, I have given you 4 questions to solve by your own. So in this video, I am going to solve two intermediate level problems to understand how exception handling works. Basically, the first program question is going to ask user to enter the list of numbers and then it gives the average. But this time we have to handle any kind of value error or division error. So let's begin our program by creating a list, an empty list. After that, we will ask user to enter the numbers and then we append them into a list. So let's ask user. Here I create a variable numbers that is responsible for taking the input from user. Here in the inverted commas I write enter numbers, and then I give the specification that each number has a space between them. So let's close our inverted commas, and then we will use a dot split function with our variable number so that it will separate each input from one another. So after that I create a loop for num in numbers, and then I pass a list dot append function. Dot append function is responsible for adding each number into the list with float data type. Float data type is basically used when you want answer in decimal points. Here we use float data type just because we calculate average and mostly average gives the answer in decimal points, so that's the reason here for using float data type. And after that, for average, the formula of average is the sum of numbers divided by the length of numbers. So here I write sum num and then length num. Outside this for loop I will print the average. So let's first run our program and check whether it calculates average or not. Here it asks for numbers. Here I give numbers 2 2 2. So basically the answer should be, here it gives the error in line 10. What is the error in line 10? Oh, the error is I give num with sum and length. Basically I need to give the list because all the numbers are added in the list. So let's rerun our program, python questions.py, and see this time it works or not. So I give three numbers 2 2 2 and the average is 2 because the sum is 6 and divided by total numbers the length of numbers is 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. Look, it gives the answer in floating point 2.0. Let's just move towards the second part of our program that tells us to handle the value error and the zero division error. So let's write code for this. Here first I use the try block and then I use except block. The purpose of for loop here is to iterate over each element and add it to the list. If the conversion and addition process is successful for all the numbers, then the program moves to the next step. If an error occurs during the process, then it jumps to the appropriate except block. Make sure to write the first letter capital of your exception that you want to raise, otherwise it will not respond. Let's clear our terminal window and see whether it works or not, whether it handles the value error or not. So after that we will create for the zero division error. Here it asks for enter numbers. Let's write name instead of the numbers and it gives the invalid input. Try again. So our code runs successfully. So let's raise an exception for the zero division error. Here I write except zero division error, but make sure to capitalize first letter zero, then D capital for division, and then E capital for error. This is how it handles the zero division error, and I print the empty list enter at least two numbers. Let's see it works or not. Here it asks for enter numbers. I didn't give any number and it gives the name error for average is not defined. I did a mistake here in my code. Here in line 10, I did a mistake in line 10. This is because I didn't give the if conditions and else condition to raise the exception. So let's give the if else condition. I need to raise the zero division error in my else condition. So this is because the list is empty and when loop iterates, it print average and average is not defined. So that's why it gives the average that average is not defined because loop didn't iterate and just directly print the average outside the loop. So this is the reason of this error. So let's correct it and give the if condition outside the for loop if list is greater than 0. I use list here in with len function. This is because all the numbers are stored in list, and inside this if condition I use average and print average, and after that I use another block of else statement that is used to raise the zero division error, that if the length of list is less than 0 then it raises the zero division error, and that's how our exception block will catch the error for zero division. Basically, the purpose of raising the zero division error is to see whether if the user enters the empty list, then it will show that please write any number in the list so that I can calculate the average. It prints the user friendly message rather than printing the complex message. The purpose of line 15 is to raise the zero division error, and then in the last line it catches the error and print the corresponding error message. Let me run my code again and I hope this time it will not show the same error. Let's run and see. It asks for numbers and I didn't give the number and it shows the empty list enter at least two numbers. So our code runs successfully. Our both exception raised when needed. So this is how this program works. We can solve this program in another way. I will tell you guys the different method for solving the same problem. So let's write for another method. The second method is quite simple. We don't need to give the if else condition in the second method, and I use the for loop inside the list so that it create the list and then we print the average of the list and raise both value error and the zero division error. Let's see how it works. There are several methods of solving one problem, so it's all up to you how you solve the problem, how you find the way to solve any problem. If you find any difficulty in solving the problem or if you want to resolve the issue, then you can just go through your code and see what mistake you did in code. It's easy for you if you first analyze your code. Here I create a variable list and pass a list and create a for loop inside that list and the floating number to convert the num into the decimal point. So this is how it works in just one step. Don't need to write the bunch of lines and don't need to give the if else condition. After that I give here the average formula and then I print the average. Let's run our code in terminal window and see the output. It asks for input numbers. I will give three numbers 2 3 4 and it gives output 3. This is because the sum is 9 and the total numbers are 3. So 9 upon 3 is 3. Let's rerun our code and this time I will give the string to check the value error. whether it traces the value or not. Here it gives invalid input, try again. So this is how it works, and let run the last time, and this time I will not give any number, an empty list, and chose empty list, enter at least two numbers. So this is how it works. Let's move towards our second problem. The second problem is quite interesting, that it is used to check the password and login system. This is the problem statement for our second problem. Then create a number that simulates a login system. Ask user to enter the username and password, and if user enter the incorrect, then it gives three tries. And here we need to handle an authentication error that provide the credentials are not correct. So let's comment it out and write a code for this problem. To write a code for this problem, first I will create a variable and assign a value of 3 to that variable, so that it is responsible for taking the 3 tries. Then we will create the function for login. So let's define function with def keyword, and the name of the function is login. Here I create the variable max underscore tries and assign value 3 to it. Inside our login function, I prompt user to enter the username and then password. So here I create variable user that is responsible for taking the username, and then I will create the variable password that is responsible for taking the password. After that, I will use the if condition and set the username and password for my login system. This is how I give the condition user equals and set the name. You can select any name for your login system. Here I select name Rafe, and then I give the AND gate, and that is responsible for checking the logics of 1 1. So it checks for both username and password. If the username and password both are correct, then it gives the print statement, otherwise it will go for the else statement. You can use any password, you are not bounded for this username and password. You can give the username and password by your own choice. After that, I will print the statement login successfully. If this condition is not true, then the program will execute the else block. Inside the else block, I will raise an exception for the error, and that shows that print that the credentials are incorrect. After that, I will create another variable, and that is the price, and assign value 0. And after that, I will use the while loop. The while loop is used to give the user 3 tries, and if user enter incorrect password 3 times, then it will show the final print statement, and the loop exists. The program prints that the maximum login attempts reached, exit program. So this is how our while loop work. So let's write command for try. Inside the try block, I will just call a login function, and after that I raise the exception. Let me give the comment for calling function. Make sure to give the comment whenever you write the code, so it helps other to understand your code. After that, I will use the except block and raise an exception. So if the user entered the incorrect password, then the attempts get incremented and the exception is raised. So here inside our exception I use the STRE, that is for string, and E is for message. This is because in the line 32 I already print the error message, that is the invalid credential, please try again. So that's why I use here E. So if you write already your error message, then you can just write the exception as E and then print the STRE. So it is easy for you and you don't need to write again and again your error message, just write str as E. So here I write error and then comma and then STRE. After that our trials will get incremented by 1 for after each attempt, and I use else statement with the while loop so that when the user enter incorrect password 3 times, the while loop exit and the statement in the else block will be printed. Let's run our code in terminal window and see it works or not. It asks for username, so first give 3 wrong username and password and see whether our while loop work properly or not. It raise an error exception, it works, and again give the wrong username and password to see whether it raise exception or not. It raise exception correctly, so it raise error invalid literal. This is because I didn't give the username and password and I didn't raise any exception for this purpose in my code. So let's try different. This time I will give the correct username and password and see whether it prints the login successful command or not. So let's rerun our code and see whether it brings the login successful or not. Use the username Rafe. Why it raise an error message? I give the correct username and password. So why it is giving the error message here? Let me look at my code. Oh, it is just because of line 28 I give the integer data type. This is the reason it gives the error message at the output. Let me fix this error. Let's run our program again. And if you want to break your program in the middle, then type Ctrl C in your keyboard. So it breaks, as you see it breaks. Clear the screen and type the command. It asks for username, type the exact username Rafe and then type the exact password 123. It gives login successfully. That's how this code will work for a logging system. Let's make another change with user underscore name and give the dot capitalize function. This function will help you to capitalize your first letter of your password. Here the first letter R is capital and I don't want to write the R capital then the whole letter is small. So let program to handle this work for you. Let's give the username in all lowercase and the password 123. It gives login successfully. So this is all because of the dot capitalize function. There are more functions like dot capitalize that will help you in your program, like dot lower, dot upper, dot ends with, dot starts with. We will discuss these later on our videos, but I have told you some of these in my previous videos. So this is all for today's. We have solved two problems, two intermediate level problems, and we will discuss more on exception in our next videos. So stay tuned. That's all for today. If you have any question, you can ask me in comment section related to this. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.